Officer Stanley Newman warned Martha that if she didn't take care of her children, she'd lose her parental rights, and he'd have to take them away. The woman pleaded with him not to do so, but Officer Newman had no choice. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like, and share this video with your friends. Martha had nowhere to go after her in-laws kicked her out of their house. Her husband had died tragically in a car accident, and her mother-in-law was pretty convinced that her daughter-in-law was a bad omen in her son's life, which is why it happened. Martha, an orphan, and now a widow with 3 children and no money or shelter, wandered the streets for a while before finding a small job to support her children. During the day, she'd collect plastic wraps and sell them to vendors for a few dollars, and at night, she'd scour the alleys behind restaurants for leftovers to feed her children. Needless to say, that was insufficient, and she and her children were struggling. But everything changed the day she met Officer Newman. He was one of the best officers in his department and was recently assigned to a drug smuggling case in New York. He was passing by a Manhattan signal one wintry evening when his gaze was drawn to Martha, who was sitting on the roadside with her children wrapped in a blanket. Officer Newman initially avoided them because there is never a shortage of homeless people in New York. Worst of all, they'll sometimes claim to you for money, and half of them are frequently intoxicated or on cheap drugs. But after looking at Martha's kids, Officer Newman was concerned. The children were lean and thin, as if they hadn't eaten in a long time. Martha appeared to be in no better shape, with a pale face which indicated a lack of blood, a lifeless expression, and dried lips due to the cold. Are those her children? Is she baiting and selling drugs with them? Officer Newman's mind was racing with a suspicion of one of the most common smuggling cases, and he decided to approach Martha. "Excuse me," he exclaimed emphatically. "You need to get up from here. You're in the way of the pedestrians. And whose kids are these, huh?" "What? Who's there? Please don't touch my children." Martha said this as she jolted awake and grabbed her children tightly, a reflex action performed by almost every mother. "Well, it's high time you wake up. What evidence do you have that these children are yours?" Officer Newman's arms were folded. "Do you have any credentials? ID?" "Well, I don't have any of those things with me, but don't take them. They're my children," Martha clarified. "Sorry, ma'am, but every other criminal who has been caught abusing children and forcing them to commit crimes says the same thing. Come with me, you and the children. We need to conduct a background investigation on you." Martha begged and pleaded with the officer, but he ignored her. The kids were taken to a safe location by another officer that night, and Martha was interrogated about her background. Martha sobbed and told the officers her entire story. They also consulted a doctor, who conducted DNA tests. When it was discovered that Martha was telling the truth, Officer Newman went to her in-law's house to take her in. But neighbors claimed that the couple had left town after their son died and had put the house up for sale. "I'm sorry, Martha," Officer Newman said, "but your in-laws are no longer staying there, and we can't help you with that. As far as the kids are concerned, I can't let them stay with you. You will be deprived of their parental rights as you can't look after them." "But officer, the only place I could stay was at my in-laws' house," Martha explained. "I know I don't have the means to support my children, but please don't take my children away from me. I'll be back on my feet in no time." Looking at Martha's condition, Officer Newman knew she couldn't get back on her feet soon, so he offered her a job as a janitor at the local police department. Newman's co-workers also assisted the woman, and for a while, they housed her children in a hotel room and covered all expenses. After Martha started earning, she asked Officer Newman to stop supporting her and rented a small flat for herself and the children. After a few months, she was able to send her eldest son to school, and she began working another job on weekends to prepare for the next child in line. Meanwhile, Officer Newman and his colleagues often visited Martha's home bringing her groceries and helped her in whatever way they could. Several years passed in this manner, and Martha managed to attain a good financial position. Soon, she left New York and relocated to Texas. She had been offered a position as a nursery teacher, so she quit her job as a janitor at the police station. After moving to Texas, fate allowed Martha to start her life all over again. At her new school, She met a man named David who often came to drop his daughter, and before they realized it, they were in love. The couple married soon after, and when Martha found out she was expecting a child, she returned to Officer Newman to express her gratitude. The retired officer had a new job and became the godfather of the child.